Ladies, I want you to go like this. Now all together, let's go.
Shamsi Music, Sauti Soul, Nairobi Horns Project, Heart the Band, Coldplay, Foreplay. All these are well-known bands, well-known brands that have been built over many years. What makes them tick? What makes them recognizable? What makes you love those brands? That's what we're going to be talking about here today. My name is Kenn Njoroge, but they call me Kenn Biggie. I'm part of Shamsi Music, a band that's been operational in Kenya for the last 8 or 9 years. And I've been the band manager, responsible for building the brand, marketing it, or heading operations that market the brand, and giving you or presenting what you see today. So, yeah. I cannot claim to be a master or professional in the area of brand and marketing, but I have some points that I'll share with you, points that you can take if you're part of a band, or if you're building a band, or if you want to start a band, points that you can pick up and perhaps apply to what you're trying to do and see what comes out of it. There's a lot of information out there. YouTube, there's a series called Masterclass. Even on Calabars, there's a lot of information out there that you can use to build what you're planning to build. But I'll take a different approach, a bit of a different approach from, I guess, what most people would do. In that I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you the story of Shamsi Music. And through that story, we'll discover various elements that contributed to the building of the brand that is the band, Shamsi Music. And some of the decisions we made in terms of branding, some of the decisions we made in terms of marketing, how that evolved over the years, how that changed or is changing currently. And through that story, through that conversation, I'd like you to pick up important points. Points about brand, points about marketing, points that I'll illuminate at the end of my story. So you better watch till the end. And then you can apply those as the main points from this conversation or your take home. Shamsi Music. Who and what is Shamsi Music? Shamsi Music is an instrumental, or has been, let me use has been because we are evolving, has been an instrumental jazz fusion band that was started in October of 2014 by a group of friends, by a gentleman called Paul Mbidi, who brought together a group of friends who'd been doing this music thing for a long time, many years before that, together as the band combination that you currently know, and some in different churches and working on different projects. Mbidi thought about it one day and asked us, why can't we do this thing that we do in church out here in the world, so to speak? We have something that we can share, and as instrumental musicians, we are often on the back burner when we are doing the work that we do in church. So why not put ourselves at the front and do something about it? So Mbidi decides to start the band in 2014 after a project that we did for a charity organization that was raising funds to educate children or young guys through high school. And he decides to start the band. At this point in time, the thing that was heavy on his heart is forming a unit that will be impactful in the industry then as we knew it, and even now as we know it. And that forms one of the key components of brand. Why? Why? What is your why? Why do you want to do the thing that you want to do? Because the why defines your vision, the why defines your mission, and the why is a critical component in forming the brand that you're trying to build. Biggie wanted us to, and all of us actually, the entire band, we were keen on being a light in the industry. And by a light, I mean, you know, when you're young, you're full of energy. Sometimes you're a bit naive, and life, you know, teaches you some hard lessons as you go. But the why that we had, or the why that we were holding on to, is we want to be impactful in the industry. We want to be a light. We want to do things different. And even through that, you know, share our faith. So we decided, okay, fine. Since we know our why, how are we going to do this? The thing that we've already been doing, or we had already been doing by that time, which was playing music. And that also then defines the what. And the what for us was music, instrumental jazz fusion music, because at the time, all of us in the band at the time were really listening, or were really into that kind of music. And we thought, great, perhaps this is the best channel for us to do this thing that we want to do. So far, we have the why, we have the what, and we have the how. Those are three key components of this thing called brand. And so we started, a bunch of young guys, full of energy, full of strength, looking up to the guys who are doing what we wanted to do at the time. So there was a guy called Aaron Rimbui. At the time, he used to be part of a band or a unit called the Four Winds. After that, he segued and started his own unit, and we really used to look up to him locally. And then a bunch of other groups, a bunch of other musicians that were here. The journey started 2014, 2015, the entire year was just us basically trying to understand ourselves, trying to be, you know, at home with what this brand or this band that we are forming is, and what forms the DNA of that band and what we should do. That actually formed the entire basis for the for the first year of our existence, which was 2015. That seems or sounds like a long time, but that's something that I'd like to highlight, is that a deep understanding of the why and a deep understanding of the mission helps to form a strong foundation for the brand that you're trying to build. Because then down the road, you'll get opportunities. Down the road, you'll get, you'll meet, the road will diverge at some point, and you'll need to make some choices. So if your why is not clear, or if your why changes along the way and you're not aware, or you're not cognizant of that fact, then you're going to struggle to build that brand in the years, or to evolve your brand as time goes. So 2015, we decided, let's understand what this is about. Let's understand what Shamsi is about. Let's define what we want to do. And we decided, great, we'll compose our own music. There were three or people in the band at the time who are composers. Compose our own music, find a way to put it out there. But first also, let's play together and form a solid unit. The solid unit, or the solid band, is what we needed, or is what formed and continues to form the foundation for the what, which is the music that we play. If you're going to have a long-lasting brand or a long-lasting career in this industry, then you have to be really good at what you do. So if you're a band, and that's the focus that we have today, if you're a band, you really need to be on top of your game with your music, and that needs time. And that's what we did in 2015. We rehearsed together. The individuals in the band rehearsed separately or practiced separately at home. We rehearsed together. We tried out our music. We played maybe a few shows, not too many shows. The beginning of that journey was difficult, but it was necessary because it formed who we are today. Played a couple of shows, Actually, for some time also started playing covers. So that deviated us from the brand that we were trying to build, which was a group of people, or a group of young musicians playing their own original music that's impactful, that's healing, and that's enjoyable to listen to. Along the way in 2015, we realized for us to build this brand that we want to do, and for us to be able to market this brand, which is another section of this conversation that we're going to have today, we need money. And money doesn't grow on trees. And we are all young people. Some of us had young families or just gotten into families. Some were still students. We needed to find money, one, to survive and make a living in this Nairobi, but two, also to build this brand that we are trying to build. So we decided, let's play a few gigs that are cover music gigs. And if you're tuning into this and you want to form a band, you probably know what a cover band is. But if this is the first time you're interacting with this material, a cover band is basically a band that plays other people's music. You can rendition it, you can play it as is, the most important bit being keeping the integrity of the composition as it was intended by the original composer. So we decided to play cover music. And this brought a bit of push and pull in the unit, in the band Shamsi Music, because there was a section of the band that felt that that is diluting the brand that we are building. But then there's a section of the band that was like, that's how we're going to get money to build this brand that we are trying to build. And so we forged on, landed what I'd call our first major recurrent or regular gig, which was a fortnight affair at the Windsor Golf and Country Club. And we would play, the first time when we auditioned for that gig, we played quite a bit of our music that we had at the time, but we also played a few jazz pieces, a few jazz standards, a few instrumental renditions to popular music. And we got in, and when we started playing the gig, after some time, the audience, this is also something you need to take care of if you're building a brand. The audience needed to hear something different. And that creates a quagmire for you who's watching, who either A, feels like they want to build their own brand, or B, you're doing cover music that you like. The problem with that industry is that at some point, it's the audience that defines what they want. You don't get the opportunity to define what you want. And that becomes a difficult path to follow. However, we needed to do that because we needed to make the money. So we played the gigs, we changed our repertoire. The advantage of that season of our lives was that, one, we did make a bit of money that helped us, live and build the brand. But two, it also helped us tighten our sound as a band, have a solid unit, because that meant we had to rehearse frequently and we had to play gigs together frequently. And we formed a very tight and robust unit. And that helped us, or helped the brand that we were trying to build. Please don't lose focus of that, which is the instrumental jazz fusion brand. These gigs that we did really helped us build this. So perhaps you're going to have a question and ask, how do you differentiate the two? Because then we probably are going to confuse the audience. So what happened along the way is we realized these cover gigs that we are doing to build our repertoire, to build our music capacity, and to make some money cannot be, we decided not to market them or not to push them out there, especially on our digital platforms or social media, so that we don't confuse the audience. Then that became tent making, so to speak, so that we can do the thing that we love, which is our own original compositions. And we did that for some time, all through 2015. 2016 checks in, we get called by another band who are doing a project, a live recording project, and they needed a unit to play. So we sat down and asked ourselves, does this align with what we want to do? Does this align with our why? Which at the time was making impactful, being the light in the industry and making impactful music.
Ah, yes. Juma! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shamsi live through your screen. Juma! Turn it.
Juma, tunakuangalia Juma. Juma. Juma, tunakuangalia Juma. Juma. Juma.
So January 2016 to February 2016, we take part in this live DVD production. It helped us continue with the process of tightening the unit of the band, the music that we play together, bonding as friends, and as we were friends from before, but we spent a lot of time together, about 6 to 7 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2 months. And that contributed a lot to us bonding. Yes, we were rehearsing someone else's music, but in there somewhere, we were finding time to rehearse our own music that we had written. We had written music and composed music, but we had not recorded that. We still did not have our first album project, which we were building up to. So that time really helped us just become a really tight unit, which is a thing, again, that you will need to do, because if you're gonna build a brand, first, once you understand your why and you describe it, and you understand your how and you understand your what, you will really need to solidify the what or the product, because many people out here have a weak product but a strong brand, but that does not last very long. When you have a weak product and a strong brand, where strong brand I mean you're visible out here, you're able to have conversations about what you're doing, then when you have a weak product and a strong brand, your timeline in the market is short. When you have a strong product and a strong brand, then your timeline is long. So we did the project, we did the recording, that helped us. We released, the band that we were doing that for released that project, and it was a success. And our learning for that first quarter of 2016 is that spending time together as a unit helped build our friendships and our relationships and bond us more, helped us work on our music and our musicality, and helped us understand our purpose and our vision better. Very important. Over time, as you build your brand, understanding your why, your what, your how, and continually refining that, continually understanding those three things will help you build a very strong brand. By this time, we'd made a bit of money, enough to consider recording a project. And even beyond that, the band that we did the live recording for had a studio, and we managed to negotiate, or I managed to negotiate a deal which saw us access the studio at less than premium, which is another thing that you will learn as you go, is that sometimes you will not have the money to do what you want, but you have the capacity to negotiate and to offer something else in return that's not money, but that's valuable to the person who has the product or the service that you want. Mid that year, around June, we go into studio and record our first project as Shamsi Music, and it's called The Audition, or we decided to call it The Audition. Why The Audition? That was our introduction, official introduction into the scene. Remember, the band started in 2014, but it took us that long to build capacity to record a project that we can release, because it was a full live album recording. By that I mean we played all the instruments live and we played them at the same time, which was key for that style of music that we were pursuing at the time, instrumental jazz fusion. So we go into studio in June of 2016, record the album, spend a month in studio. That was probably one of the hardest months for some of us in the band who had not been in a recording project for that long. You see, the other project we rehearsed for about 6 weeks, recorded over 1 week. This one, we had been rehearsing our music. Our Shamsi music album recording, we'd been rehearsing the music. But then we took about a whole month just to record, just to make sure the vibe is right, just to make sure the music is good. That way we have a strong product, a strong what that we shall put out there and introduce ourselves into the industry. That was an interesting month. Around that same time, we auditioned for the Safaricom International Jazz Festival, which was at the time and for a long time the biggest jazz platform in the region. We auditioned 2016 for the Safaricom International Jazz Festival, and we got in. I remember something that was evident at the time. First, the music is good, was good. Second, we had done a few things in the area of branding ourselves. So remember, always keep those three things in mind: the why, the what, and the how. But also visually, there's the aspect of your audience. Something that's important and that I'll talk about a bit later is the aspect of your audience. How do you pick your audience? How do you know that that's the audience you want to target? Where is that audience located? How do you reach them, which is basically marketing? And how do you present yourselves to them? What's the visual element of your band? If I look at your band playing, if I look at your band on digital media, am I able to, off the cuff, identify that this is Shamsi music, that this is Sauti Sol, and so on and so forth? So by that time in 2016, we'd done the music. I'd gotten a friend of mine who we used to, we were in the same university, and he's a graphics designer. And I was like, bro, why don't you design a logo for us? Now, a brand is not a logo, but a logo helps to identify a brand. So it's important that you get it right, because then that logo is what carries you, or that's the first visual point of interaction that your audience will have with your brand. It's important to get it right the first time, but even if you don't, I mean, there's room to improve on the logo and all the aspects of a logo. And a logo is not just a graphic piece that's nice to look at or that's interesting. There's elements that went into that. When I contracted Chris to do the logo for us, he asked me a couple of questions. What are the colors that you guys are going for? If you go and do some research, you'll realize that colors communicate certain things. What's the color, or what's the color spectrum that you guys want to go for as Shamsi music? What are you about? What's your vision? What's your mission? So I had a whole document. In there, I'd written what Shamsi is about. Shamsi is actually also Arabic for sun. So, and the point in that is that we wanted to be a light, or we want to be a light, or we continually want to be a light. And I had that document and I shared it with Chris, and he came up with a logo that you currently know as the Shamsi music logo. Insert logo here. And that logo is a representation of the sun in colors that are in the spectrum between orange and brown, which are earth colors, which are basically warm colors, which is what most people by that time had told us our music makes them feel. So we had a logo, we had a style, so to speak. When we were on stage, we wanted to dress in African print, African influenced clothing, and we auditioned and we got in. That's perhaps one of the most pivotal points of our journey, because then that set us on a path of accelerated growth that we were actually not very prepared for, or we were not ready for, but we were prepared for. That's what I wanted to say. It set us on a path that we were not ready for, but we were prepared for.